This is the second part of the clinical interviewing, and I just want to thank Corinthia. I just want to make sure that you know this isn't a real interview, or anything that you say isn't real or valid, and won't be used for a treatment plan. So thank you for volunteering.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Corinthia. My name is Erica.
Nice
I'm going to be the program coordinator for your little brother, Jesus. I just want to say thank you for taking time. I know that you're a full-time student, so thank you for taking time to meet with me today, and so I can get to know a little bit about Jesus.
Thank you for coming over too. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So can you just tell me a little bit about your little brother, Jesus? How old is he?
He is 13 years old and he has Down syndrome.
Okay.
And you mean as far as his behaviors? You want to know?
Just a little bit about him, yeah. What makes him him?
He's really special to us because he's really like goofy, but in a sense, he's really stubborn. He's nonverbal, but despite that, he's usually like the center of attention and the like comedian of the
sunshine of the room,
yes,
the light.
Yeah.
I heard that you said a little bit of non-compliant. I know that when I spoke to the CSC Regional Center, she mentioned that maybe this program would be really well to help him build up his compliance. Would you say that that is one of the main issues that you have with him? What are some examples that you see yourself when you experience those non-compliance behaviors?
It's usually when we ask him to do something. So say for example, if we want him to go to the store, a reinforcer in order for him to come. If we just tell him, okay, let's go to the store, I mean, it's common sense, right? But if there's no reinforcer, then he won't want to come and he'll just sit there. And say in the case like when no one's home with my mom, right, and she like really has to go, she either has to cancel her plans or just like literally drag him out.
I see. And do you think that's because he doesn't want to go to the store? Will he go to like a preferred store, like if it's like Toys R Us or Sky Zone or anything that's interesting to him?
Yeah.
He would be willing to go.
We have to like exaggerate a lot and just like really like
talk up the event.
Yeah.
And when he's at the store, let's say, you reinforced him, he's at the store, what's his behaviors there at that environment?
Usually when he already has hit whatever it is that he knows he's going for, he wants to go back home already. So
I see.
He starts becoming impatient. So we have to kind of like play with the event or like the environment and just like keep him entertained.
Can you give me an example of the last time you had that? What was it that he received at the store particularly that made him then say, okay, we're done, let's go? What was the reinforcer?
So an example of that would be like we went to the store recently, and the store's like close by our house. Like it's literally like two houses away. When we got there, for him, he was just like, I want chips and juice, right? So he got his chips and his juice, but while I was there, I was making phone calls to my brothers to see if they wanted something else, and he didn't want to. He didn't really understand, like, okay, why is it that
you're waiting?
We're waiting
that
she's not paying and we're not leaving, So what I usually have him do when we take him to the store, I have him like pull out either my debit card or whatever form of payment I'm making and help me.
I see.
To kind of like entertain him. So if I wouldn't have done that, he would have just like ran out.
Oh, with the chips.
Yeah, with the chips. And just say like, hey, I'm leaving.
I see. Yeah. Is there any other forms of non-compliance other than trying to escape a task or try to escape from going to somewhere? Do you see it in school? Is he compliant at school?
At school, sometimes it happens during lunchtime as well. If it's time to go back inside. Well, it's kind of different at school because at school he's kind of like the leader.
Oh, of the classroom? He's a leader?
Yeah, he usually, it's because his other classmates, they have like lower functioning skill sets.
I see.
So he's usually the leader and like he like really loves that. So we try to empower
advantage
him.
of it.
Try
and
to
you empower him. Oh, that's wonderful. That's beautiful. And how long would you say a typical non-compliant episode would last before he eventually will say, okay, let's go? Or is willing to do what you're asking him to do?
Well, it depends, like the level, like of non-preferred, like that, how bad he doesn't want to do it.
For like a typical outing, for instance, like the supermarket, how long would you say he has that non-compliance?
Maybe like 10 minutes.
And through it, is it just verbal stereotypy where he's saying, no?
We try to show him pictures as well, like, okay, like, if you go, like, you're gonna get this, but we have to, like, really exaggerate.
Does he tantrum during those 10 minutes? Will he cry, yell, become aggressive?
It depends on his mood. If he's just doesn't want to hear it, he'll, like verbally yell, like, stop, like, no, I don't want this.
And especially because it's so hot in the summer, would you say that the heat, because I know that I have a relative with Down syndrome, and the heat is very, very impactful in his behavior, so we have to take that into consideration before we consequence him for anything, because, at the end of the day, he can't really express to us, hey, I'm hot.
Yeah, and we try to keep that in mind too, like right now that it's hot. Like my mom struggles with my little sister, picking her up from a block away from.
And how old's your little sister?
She's 8.
Okay.
So sometimes, my sister, he gets home before my sister does. So then if there's no one home to pick up my sister, my mom's has to, if he doesn't want to come,
of course,
because of the heat or, just being non-compliant, she kind of just has to, like, wait for my sister.
Oh, okay. And how often would you say he's pretty non-compliant on a daily event?
Well, it depends. The frequency of it would be probably at least once a day for sure.
Okay.
And it can go up depending if he's home all day or not. Maybe like 5 times.
5 times?
Yeah.
And would you say there's someone he does it more with? In the family?
No.
No? Is there someone he does it less than with? I know sometimes children will listen to their parents more or their sibling.
Well, he does that less with me. I'm kind of seen as like the big sister that,
You're the reinforcer.
Yeah, I'm the reinforcer.
Especially because you're so busy with your school and everything.
And he knows, like, usually, like, I follow through with what I say. If you do this, then I'll do it. But then he's at that age right now where he's a teenager and he's like, I don't want to do it, and he's just not gonna.
And how long would you say he's been non-compliant for? That it's become kind of a part of delaying some of your family's routines?
I would say he's always done it. I don't want to say since he was born. He's always done it, but lately it's been like the past like 3 years where
last
he's
3
like
years.
growing up and just like.
And he just celebrated his 13th birthday recently.
Yeah.
So he is in that transition of 13, and that could be a factor, especially with the weather and everything of his non-compliance. No, definitely. So about 3 years, you say?
Yes, I would say like 3 years where it's just become. I mean, it might be part of him transitioning.
And then, what would you say is one of the top reinforcers for him to decrease that behavior?
Well, there has to be definitely like a reinforcer where he's having access to something that either he normally doesn't have, or with him like really like with chips and ice cream.
So it's more food that he gets reinforced with. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes like if we tell him, oh, we're gonna take you over here, right, say Disneyland or whatever, like it's kind of.
He doesn't really buy into it.
Yeah, he doesn't really buy into it.
Do you think it's because you've done that, like, we're going to Disneyland, and then you don't?
Yeah.
So you think he just knows that it's not a very realistic promise?
More with my parents. I see that issue more with my parents where they tell him, okay, we're going to do this. And I tell them, like, don't
promise.
Like, overuse it, and then he's not going to believe you.
So what would be another example of a non-compliance? Because I see that that's more of a family, within the family. Do you have an example maybe where it's like a group setting? Because I know it would be school, but since he is doing pretty well at school.
I would say another big example that recently happened was for his birthday. He was really excited, and it was the first year that.
And this was
in February.
Okay.
So his 13th.
A few months ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
A few months ago, his 13th birthday. Prior to that, he was really excited, and we asked him. Usually, he doesn't do good in when there's like a lot of people around him. He gets agitated and just overstimulated. Partly because other kids like to pick on him, and then he
family members or children that were invited.
Just children that were invited. Family members are pretty good with it, but then he becomes aggressive with them. But prior to that, to the birthday planning, we asked him if he wanted to have a birthday party, and he was really obsessed with the Hulk. So, you know, I showed him the piñata, and he went with us. We went to downtown LA and picked out the piñata. He was compliant. He was really excited
right, because the reinforcer was the party.
Yeah, the party that he's gonna have a party with birthday cake, a piñata, party bags, all of that good stuff, you know. So when it came to the party, he had the jumper, which is something that he like really loves. He can stay in it all day. There wasn't, when it first started, the event, you know, he was in the jumper and he was enjoying himself, but then once it was like too many people, that's when he kind of wanted to kick everybody out of the jumper. And he wasn't really like feeling the idea of, okay, this is a party
event.
Yeah, it's a party for me. Once it was like too many people in there, like he just didn't like that idea. When it came to breaking the piñata, he was so excited. He wanted to break it, but he didn't want to come out of the jumper because there was too many people. He started crying and just didn't even participate in breaking the piñata. I could tell, I can see him that he wanted to get the candy from the floor, but he didn't want to come out. And we tried
you guys tried to convince him to come out, and he just was being non-compliant.
Yeah, we tried to convince him to come out, but he was just not having it.
You think he was just trying to escape the group of people?
Yeah.
Is that a recurring event that he gets overstimulated through large settings? Or do you think it was specifically because he might have had this idea in mind?
He might, yeah. I think, well, both. I think, one, we know that he does get overstimulated by like larger group settings, so we don't normally bring him to like these type of events.
Right.
And then I think he had a different idea of like maybe it was just gonna be the immediate family, and then him breaking the piñata and having fun on his own. And part of it was our fault, you know. We should have not
maybe prepped him a little bit better, shown him pictures,
or maybe not invite too many people over as well. So
of course.
There was that, and then with the birthday cake as well, like we tried to have him come down, and you know, people were like kind of like waiting. We were waiting as well for him to like be able to cut the cake and, you know, pass it out and whatnot. We don't want it to go to waste, so we tried to get him down as well, and he started, my dad actually wanted to physically like carry him to the cake, and it just was, it became a lot worse where he started crying and he started like hitting my dad as well. So after that, like we were trying to find like another way to bring him down happily. So then my dad, he said, you know, I'll push my head into the cake, you know. So he thought that was my little brother, like that's what kind of like got him to
outside of the jumper,
like, come down and
the
actually, he was still like, his face was super swollen because he was crying all day. But when he came back down into the like where the cake area was at, we started singing happy birthday, and then but for him it was more like, okay, they're singing happy birthday to my dad and it's not his birthday, and he thought it was hilarious. So then after that, like we convinced him to like cut the cake,
and he was a little bit more compliant after that. Good.
So after that he was good, and then everybody just kind of started leaving, and once there was like less people, he was fine.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for all that information. I really think that gave me a really good idea of the target behavior.
Hopefully it was helpful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.